and welcome to the Brunch on Kerr Fatou Live. I'm Lamin Chan. We apologize, of course, for the late start of the program. This week, our discussion centers on Senegal. Neighboring Senegal have been in turmoil since yesterday when demonstrations rocked Dakar and other places over the supposed disqualification of opposition Yew Askanbi's candidates for the parliamentary elections coming on July the 31st. Now, we will start the program by going straight to Dakar to update ourselves with the situation. And our friend and colleague, Senegalese journalist Pape Niang is on the line. Pape, jërëjëf, na nga def?
maa ngi lay ziar bu baax a baax di nuyu sa auditeurs yi ñuy seetaan ak ñuy déglu yëpp ñu fas yéene waxtaanee mbiru Sénégal waa Gambie bi yëpp.
ok léegi dañ bëgg a xam nag depuis démba lan moo xewoon Dakar.
pour Dakar daanaka bu ñu koy mën a tënk dañuy wax rek ne opposition bi nga xam ne ñoo nekk ci coalition Yewwi Askan bi nga xam ne moo ëmb ñoom Khalifa Ababacar Sall ñoom Ousmane Sonko ñoom Déthié Fall ak ñeneen ñi nga xam ne ñi ngi ci biir dañoo bëggoon am li nga xam ne moo di toogu ñaxtu ndaxte juróom-ñetti fan ci weeru juin bi ñu weesu opposition bi amoon na benn manifestation bu rëy bu jéggi dayo boo xam ne daanaka histoire politique bu Sénégal xeet manifestation boobu yaa ngi ko gëj a gis ci temps wu Ablaye Wade ñu def benn manifestation bu rëy rëy l'opposition di ñaxtu nag dafa nekk lu jéggi dayo yoo xam ne mi ngi ci démocratie Sénégal delloo démocratie Sénégal ci ginnaaw bu baax a baax dañuy waaj a dem ci élection législative maanaam ci assemblée nationale ba ñu war a tànn ñu toogal leen fa yàlla def suñu loi électorale léegi liste yi ñuy defar day nekk liste yoo xam ne day am góor am jigéen am góor am jigéen moom la ñu woowee liste paritaire ba pare tamit dañ leen laaj li nga xam ne moo di wàllu parrainage moo di balaa ngaa bokk ci bi dafa am benn lim boo xam ne dañ la koy laaj ne da nga koo war a am lim boobu dafa am nu mu war a mën a toll ak loo xam ne waru ko mën a jéggi ci loolu ba Yewwi Askan Wi doon déposé ay listam ci fi nga xam ne moo di fa la ñuy commission électorale bi dafa amoon ay coow lu bari lu ci am coow bi ci njëkk mi ngi demoon ci listu Dakar waa ñi yor élection yi dañ ne woon listu Dakar bu Yewwi Askan Bi baaxul ndax amul li nga xam ne moom la ci santaane mooy góor jigéen góor ñi ñoo ci ëpp jigéen léegi loolu ba mu amee waa Yewwi Askan waa électoral bi li mu wax dafa ne bu mu koy déposé liste bi bu ñu kiribal dañ ma war a def wax ko ci élection yi léegi ci loolu administration ñi yor élection ci taxawaay boo xam ne kenn mënu ko rafetlu parce que taxawaayu far la bëggoon nañu éliminer liste Dakar ndax lu tax ñu bëggoon éliminer liste Dakar moo di ñoom gisoon nañ ci élection locale yi ne opposition bi moo leen gañe ci Dakar fii Barthélémy Dias mooy maire bu Dakar te gañaay boo xam ne bëriw woon lool ñu ragal na bu ñu demee ci élection opposition bi ndax Barthélémy mooy jiite liste Dakar te bëggoon yàq liste boobu la opposition bi nekk ci Yewwi Askan bi dem ci fi nga xam ne moo di juge yi mooy juróom-ñaari conseil constitutionnel yi yóbbu mbir mi foofu ñu ba ñu àttee mbir mi jox leen dëkk ne waruñoo dàq liste opposition bi ci Dakar dañ leen war a bàyyi ñu participer léegi ba ñu demee parce que li yëpp il faut ma leeralal ko pour ngeen mën a xam lan mooy coow
waaw
léegi ba ñu paree ci loolu ñu dem ci beneen ñu jox leen dëgg ñu ñëw defaraat seen liste Dakar dugal ko parce que loolu la lii nga xam ne moo di code électoral bi wax kon ñu jàpp na foofu jalgati bu ci jëkk feeñoon na fa ñu demaat ci beneen mbir moo di opposition bi ñëw di déposer seen liste nationale liste nationale koo xam ne dañ ko investir ku jigéen national kon mu doon li ñuy wooyee doublon ñaari yoon lañ koy def te mënut a nekk loolu ba wax ngay seet yi kooku changé ko bu nekkee ne ko dañ ko dugal ñaari yoon koy génne seen dugal 2001 lu ñu mel amoon na ci diggante parti socialiste ak Abdoulaye Wade ndax aale boobu dafa ko dugaloon ci liste parti socialiste dugal ko ci liste parti démocratique sénégalais wante conseil constitutionnel boobu dafa dogaloon ne aale loolu ci fenn la mën a bokk aale na moom PDS lay ànd ak ñu génne ko ci liste parti socialiste mu doon déposé ministère de l'intérieur ci boppam moom ci boppam bi benn arrêté ne liste bu yeewu ci Yewwi Askan bi liste nationale bi nga xam ne Ousmane Sonko Khalifa Babacar Sall ñoom Aïda Mbodj ñoom ak si ñoom ñëpp lañ nekk liste nationale boobu du bokk ci élection yi ñëpp fu jàpp ne la jarul sax ñu ciy wax ju bëri bu ñu demee conseil constitutionnel juróom-ñaar ñi nekk foofu dañuy atte rek mbir mi jeex ñu delloowaat liste yi mais bettange gu rëy la ñu am ndaxte ci ay xibaar yoo xam ne taataan nañ ko président Macky Sall def pression ci ñi nga xam ne ñoo di juróom-ñaari juge yooyu ñooñu di teel ko lu mu bëgg li mu bëgg mooy lan moo di ñooñu ñoo àtte na ko liste nationale bu Benno Bokk Yaakaar bu Yewwi Askan bi bokk maanaam dindi nañ Ousmane Sonko dindi Khalifa Sall dindi Aïda Mbodj Khalifa Sall sax bokkul ci safak la dindi ñoom ñëpp ñu dindi leen ci léegi nag ñu ne leen lii xel mënu koo nan te ca bu booba li gën a garaaw mooy liste Benno Bokk Yaakaar bu ñuy xool ci li nga xam ne moo di parrainage yi maanaam li nga laaj nga bokk ñoom dañoo ëppal ba ñoom nangu nañ ne lim bañ joxee ëppal nañ te ku ëppal yow waroo bokk ci élection yi ñu demaat xool ci liste Benno Bokk Yaakaar mu amaat tamit li nga xam ne amul góor amul jigéen góor jigéen amu ci mu am fenn foo xam ne dafa am dañ fa am njuumte buñ fa def recours yi ñu opposition bi defal yëpp daanaka ñu ne ci patt pataaral lii la ci patt pataaral kenn waxu ci dara loolu nag ñu ne Macky Sall am mën na def lu mel nii ndax ba mu toogee ci réew mi ba léegi gestion buy am du ñeme sëgg bëre ak ay adversaire am ni koy doon santaane waaw day paataagal li koy firnde mooy ba mu faloo Karim Wade ragaloon na ko moo tax mu fexe ba jël gré yi bi mu nekk ni exilé Karim Wade mu ngi dugg Sénégal Khalifa Babacar Sall mu gën a bokk ci élection présidentielle yi ñu ne ko nag vraiment yow ba nga toogee ci bopp nguur gi ba léegi ñii président doon def di xeex pour li nga xam ne moo di démocratie yow dellu Sénégal dafa dellu ginnaaw ci loolu nag la Yewwi Askan Wi ne ñoom dañuy xeex parce que lii jaaduwul le 8 ñu organiser seen rassemblement moo bëri doon waaw mais démb ba ñu bëggee def li nga xam ne moo di seen rassemblement ñu aaye leen ko te loolu constitution Sénégal moo may képp loolu Abdoulaye Wade moo ko def moo ko bind ci constitution bi ndoxu ñaxtu aaye leen ko ñoom tamit ñu ne dañuy manifester leen gis démb coow lu bëri mais li jaaxal ni ñi dañ ne woon ñoom force de l'ordre yi amuñu mais démb képp au Sénégal gis ngeen ñaawteef bi ñu def moo di dem nañ daanaka 4h30 du matin waxuma sax buntu kër Ousmane Sonko mais cité bu mu dëkk cité bi yëpp lañ 4h du matin indi fa ay chars de combat indi fa ay mais blindé lañ tëj li nga xam ne moo di foofu yëpp ñu ne deetawaay ñu def lu ñu mel tamit kër Barthélémy Dias jàpp Déthié Fall buntu permanence su parti balaa loolu fi ñu wax dafa la ñuy manifester tamit ñu dem tëj ko teru Sénégal image yu Sénégal dafa dellu ginnaaw te day fàttali sax ñaawteef yoo xam ne kenn mënu koo natt dafa ñaaw ci deru Sénégal fi may wax ak yéen ni léegi ci magistrat ma nga war di so ñu jàpp ay lekk mu dem commissariat ba commissaire bi joxe digal ñu jàpp mu nekk ay ñaawteef yoo xam daal mi ngi am Sénégal loo xam ne kenn mënu koo natt te loolu daal dafa delloo du sax démocratie daal maanaam lompoñ na bu baax a baax fi mu nekk nii ci Sénégal léegi nag jërëm xool bi fan lay mujjee
jërëjëf Pape Ali ligne bi xaw nañu kiit léegi-léeg du leer waaye nag jërëjëf comprendre nañ problème bi ni mu commencé ak ni balaa ngaa dem li ma la laaj mooy est-ce que bi yëpp liy xew nii mbiri troisième mandat bi du moo ko indi coow boobu yëpp.
waaw xam nga tey jii ku amul benn ambition pour doon candidat présidentiel 2024 doo nekk di kër di def lii yëpp di dugal sa réew ci coow lii xam nga président Macky Sall moom dama lay wax dëgg te li may wax nii li may wax boo demee ci internet bi kàddoom rido may la rido kenn du ci wéeru ay waxam moom jarul julliwul jarul dóor sa doom lépp lu la wax tey nga nekk kilifa bu rafle kàddu dara ci moom wax na def le contraire waxoon na fii ne mandat bi juróom-ñaari at lay def juróomi at lay def gis ngeen lu ak yu bare boo duggee di nga gis ci lépp lu mu doon wax gis nga président Macky Sall li muy mébét mooy troisième mandat te loolu moom ki nga xam ne moo koy xalaatal ci politique nekk directeur cabinet politique am di Mahmoud Saleh moom ci boppam wax na ko dafa toog vidéo ñëpp di ko seetaan Mbour conférence mu ne ci élection locale yi mu ne ñun dugalul ci élection locale yi bu ñu mer nañu ànd ak ñun ñëpp ñu xeex pour gagner élection locale yi ndax élection locale yi buñ ci génnee la ñuy xamee nan la ñuy taxawee pour élection législative yi bu ñu noppee nag xam la ñuy tegee suñu candidat 2024 loolu du leer si Macky Sall boo ko déggee doon candidat mu ne du ma tontu oui du ma tontu non la mu bëgg nag xam nañ fi mu nekk ni mi ngi rey boppam ci li nga xam ne moo di assemblée nationale ndaxte barki Dembo Ndiaye ci CEDEAO dafa am protocole bu fa am dëkk yi nekk ci CEDEAO wax ba ju léegi nga doom dañoo bëgg a dugal ci li nga xam ne moo di procès dëkk bu nekk fa nekk ñaari mandat dong nga am président bu jalgati def ñetteelu mandat te génn seen teewu Togo Sénégal ak signé ne du ko signé xam nga loolu firnde bu leer la ne moom signé wul loolu d'accordul loolu Macky Sall ba ci demoo ñaar gis ko mu def benn waxtaan ak ay journaliste France ba muy toog a ñëw ne woy réew moom boo ko toogee ba am ñaari mandat doy na sëkk da nga wax nit gisaat ko barki dem moo jaay mu ne mandat yi nga xam ne day ñaar moo tax Afrique du développé Afrique dañoo war a bàyyi président yi ñu toog ba doyal kon nga xam ne moom mi ngi xalaat ñetteelu mandat
si dafa mel ni Macky dafa mel ni Macky
su ko cee wax parce que mi ngi xalaat ñetteelu mandat yow ya
ok jërëjëf Pape jërëjëf Pape Ali Niang waaw pour sa leeral bii nii jërëjëf
lii ne dañoo war a def mandat yaa
waaw leen bi nag moo ñu kii Pape jërëjëf ka leen bi daf ñu jàmfaa that is journalist Pape Ali Niang giving us the background to all the problems that led to yesterday's violent demonstrations and even peaceful one, I guess, the one that happened before. So, Demba Ali Jao, you work in Dakar as editor of a news agency, I think APA, and you followed Senegalese football, rather, I'm talking about football, Senegalese politics very, very well. What happened yesterday? We now understand that 3 people died, unfortunately. What can you tell us is the background to this yesterday's incident?
Well, I think the Senegalese political leaders are playing a very dangerous game in this. We live in a very volatile sub-region, and I don't think they should go this far, and because that could trigger kind of a problem for Senegal and the sub-region as well. Already the sub-region is in trouble. The Sahel region, we've got a lot of insecurity in Mali, neighboring Mali. You have Burkina Faso. You have virtually all of West Africa. There are problems, and if leadership are not careful, they are going to invite this extremists to get into Senegalese territory, and that could be very catastrophic for the sub-region as well. And what happened in Senegal is, I think there is a big gulf between the ruling party, or the ruling clique, and the opposition. Particularly this Yewi Askanwi. You have very radical people like Ousmane Sonko, Barthélémy Dias. Khalifa Sall is not very radical, and he's a very, moderate politician. But it appears these people are carrying him along. Particularly Ousmane Sonko, he's too radical. And I think what happened yesterday was there is a law which says they are approaching the legislative elections, and there is a particular period when they are not allowed to kind of do any politicking. But politicking they can do, but kind of campaigning is not allowed. And I think what they were supposed to do yesterday falls within that period. It falls within the period that they are not allowed to do that kind of thing. And I thought probably rather than forcing their way and having it the way they want it, they should have at least discussed with the authorities, or even if necessary, if they feel that it was against the law to prevent them from going ahead with what they are doing, they should have gone to the courts and try to get an injunction from the government rather than just forcing their way. I think it's a dangerous game they were playing. And
didn't it stem from the fact that they are not happy that the constitutional committee or whatever have disqualified the list of their candidates for the election? That is what they said should not happen, and they said if that stands, then they will make sure that there is no election, because that is not fair. So this protest they are staging is more or less not a kind of a campaign, but according to me, is to state their dissatisfaction of the unfairness of the disqualification of their candidates, because they believe that because of the success they had in the local government elections, the government is panicked that should these people be allowed to contest in the elections, they're going to win the parliamentary elections.
That could be probably one of the factors. But let us not forget the fact that not only the Yewi Askanwi list was disqualified, but other lists were also disqualified, including a list of the ruling party itself. Beno Bokeyakar, and I think one of their lists was also disqualified on that basis as well. The parity thing, that is,
women.
Yes, there must be equal representation. If you have a man and then you have a woman next to the man, I think that is part of the law. Even though they also have what is known as parrainage or whatever it means, and I think they already ECOWAS has already spoken against that aspect of it.
Parrainage, that is, you have to have some criteria.
Of course. Because they have too many parties and civic groups that want to participate. So and if you allow everybody to be,
it's a kind of a pre-qualification.
So they have to kind of do some pre-qualification to allow, because that would be the field would be too crowded, and it would be extremely difficult to organize election. Not only expensive but difficult as well. Everybody wants to get candidates, and so that would be too much for the authorities. So that's why they put in this parrainage thing, so that they can be able. They want to regulate the field, and at least to make it a little bit not too crowded. But I think all these things, the politicians should sit down and discuss these issues rather than just wanting to force their way. I don't think it is the best way to go about it. Anyway, I think the fault is not only on the side of the government, but I think there is a fault on the side of the opposition as well. You just can't bulldoze away all the way throughout. There are laws and regulations to be followed, and I think the opposition sometimes is pushing too hard. That's not the way to go about it.
So you think the opposition, like the government, always accuse them, or the supporters of the government always accuse them of trying to cause violence, trying to solve every problem by using violence?
Yeah, I think that is one aspect of it, definitely. The government is faulty to a certain extent, but I think the opposition definitely also have their problems as well. And with regards to this third term mandate, that you are talking about, everybody is talking about, I am almost convinced that Macky Sall would not seek for a third mandate, because that is going to, prescription for chaos for Senegal. I cannot imagine I cannot imagine the civil society, Senegalese civil society, and the opposition allowing Macky Sall to go for a third term. I mean, I don't think he would. I think what Macky is doing, he's just kind of playing a kind of safe politics for his political party, because right now if he declares that he's not going for a third term, then there is going to be chaos within his party, because everybody would like to come in. He wants to prevent. That's what he's trying to preempt. That's as far as I'm concerned. But honestly, until that happens, I am convinced that Macky is not going to seek for a third term, honestly.
It doesn't seem to be the case. Everybody, is feeling that Macky, all this problem have to do with the fact that Macky is suspected of, preparing to go for a third term.
I will be very surprised if that happens. I think Macky is trying to prevent the disintegration of his own party. That's why he's keeping quiet and keeping everybody in suspense until in fact, he has already promised that immediately after the the National Assembly election, he's going to make his position clear. Because if Macky decides to go for a third term, that is going to be catastrophic for Senegal. I cannot imagine the Senegalese, civil society and the opposition. Yeah, he tried it, but that was you see how it ended. So I don't think Macky would, at this age, I don't think Macky would definitely think about doing that. No, I don't think so.
Well, for me, I think Uncle Dia has provided us with the wider context, and I think Senegalese politics have been very interesting, particularly for us Gambians as well, in terms of the close-knitted society that we have. Yeah. But also I've been following the development, and sometimes I like to listen to what the people that are out there, the issues that they are saying. I think as part of the problem, and as seen before in terms of the protests that happened before, it has to do with a lot of grievances that have developed, over the period. And I think the term limit is one kind of conversation that, we are talking about. But of course, there are issues of a greater Senegalese nationalism, where people wanted to, control, particularly young people, where they want to control their resources, they want to control, get their independence. And to some extent, some of them were comparing what is happening in the wider sub-region. Like you see what is happening in Mali, what is happening in there, but yet within Senegal, those things are not happening. But of course, Senegal, I think, are also very, their kind of politics is characterized by this kind of stuff as well. And we've seen what happened in 2011, when Wade wanted to go for a third term, and it seems like we are seeing a similar process happening now. But I also agree with Uncle D that Senegal needs to be both the opposition and the government. They really need to be careful, because at this point, ECOWAS needs stability. ECOWAS needs, political countries to continue functioning, and I think the current trends are not very hopeful. And of course, we've also seen debate about limiting the right to movement. But of course, Uncle D is talking also about an existing law that prevents such things from happening. So how do they go about addressing this differences? I think will require both the opposition and the government to sit to have a conversation over that as well.
Let's go a little bit back. You said Senegal. Senegal is seen to be the beacon of peace and hope for the especially the West African sub-region, our area here. It is the only country, perhaps, if I'm right, who have never experienced military coup d'etats, and it is surrounded by countries that are facing military problems. This extremism all around them, military is intervening and stuff like. So people think Senegal is the hope, beacon of hope. So very few are interested in seeing these kind of scenes in Senegal. Not so.
Yeah, of course, as you say, Senegal had been the beacon of hope for this for this sub-region in particular. It's the only country that has never experienced any military intervention. But again, Macky Sall currently is the chairman of the AU, the African Union, and I think whatever happens in Senegal should be of interest to the whole of not only the sub-region but the whole continent and the world at large. So I think, that's why I think the political leadership should be very, very careful, because the integrity of Senegal as is a beacon of hope, as well as the sub-region rests squarely on their, on the way they are going to act. And with what we are seeing, definitely, is going to be a very acrimonious, legislative elections. If they are not careful, it can lead to anything. So I think they need to be very careful. They need to sit down around the table and discuss these issues and see how best they can go and have very peaceful elections. Yeah.
How, before you leave the topic, how would this have implication-wise on Gambia?
Well,
a politically turmoiled Senegal.
Of course, Gambia and Senegal are so interlinked in every area you think about. If there is trouble in Senegal, definitely there is trouble in the Gambia, because we have very porous borders, and if there is a large movement of people, in Senegal, honestly, the first destination would be, the Gambia. Like what happened, when Gambia, we had this political impasse. Everybody, had to go to Senegal, and that's exactly what has happened. Of course, Senegal is surrounded by other countries as well, but I think the tendency of moving across the Gambia would be much more than even going to other countries as well. So we definitely should pray for peace and stability within Senegal, because that is for the interest of the Gambia and the sub-region at large.
The emergence of Ousmane Sonko from the south. The south has had a difficult relationship with the north. Well, of course, that is when you consider this rebellion. Ousmane, of course, has not indicated any sympathy or any support for the armed insurrection in the castle. But he comes from there. Isn't that also part of the problems that is influencing perception about him in Dakar?
Possibly yes, but okay. Let's take this perspective. Ousmane Sonko originally is from the south, but actually he was born and bred in the north, in Case. So I understand he does not even speak Jola. So his origin is okay. He's from the south, but he's Senegalese like all the other Senegalese, and in fact he has his roots are even more pronounced in northern Senegal than in the south of Senegal. Although it could be a factor, probably some people in the south who are actually clamoring for, a separation may see him as, because he's so radical, anti-government and other things. So they may see in him as maybe a hope for, helping them to succeed from Senegal. But I don't think, Ousmane, I don't think that would be part of his agenda. Honestly, I very much doubt it. I think Ousmane Sonko, he may be very radical, but he's interested in the unity of Senegal. That's what I think, anyway.
Is he not also considered the biggest danger to Maki's political ambitions, or anybody who coming from Maki's party? If Maki, as you said, Maki may not run.
I very much doubt whether Ousmane Sonko, with his radicalism, I think he's not. He hasn't got the ability. He may not have the chance of ever becoming president of Senegal, because he's just too radical, and the Senegalese
think he is the biggest force.
Particularly among young people.
Of course, he has a very large constituency within the young generation. But I very much doubt. Probably, people like Khalifa Sallah or others, but Ousmane Sonko, I think he's just too extremely radical. He can attract a lot of support from the young people, but when it comes to countrywide support, honestly, within the Dakar and its surroundings, and maybe in Zigansor area, it's okay. He can, but beyond that, I don't think the rest of the country are going to go with him. That's the thing. Yeah.
And Seth, yes, what do you make of Ousmane's?
I've been following Senegalese politics from
background. Has any perception or any influence the perception people in Dakar have of him?
I think for me it has to do, his main issue has to do with more of his activism. He's not only a politician, but also, an activist sort of a politician that, wants to change issues, that want to change the way Senegal has been run for the longest. They address the issues of corruption. I think for me these are the main concern, rather than where he is from. Of course, those things can be part of the conversation, because even right now, the issue of the MFDC has become part of this ongoing conversation as well.
They said they had arrested people they believe to be rebel.
Yes.
In the last
So it is becoming part of this conversation, and I think also in terms of the impact on Gambia, this is where also it is coming, because we have seen recently how things have been happening at this level. But for me, I totally agree. I think he's Senegalese, and as a Senegalese, that counts first rather than where he was born or what language he speaks. And I think Senegal also understand this kind of politics. But I've also seen that he came third in the previous election, so that shows that there's a strong possibility for him to win. And I think he got a lot of support across the country, and especially now where we're discussing the possibility of Macky going for a third term. I think he might be I'm not sure whether there is another alternative that is currently as visible as he is as an opposition. And I think the fact that he's having all these other moderates will also add to their group. But for me, the other question that I'm thinking about is that why is it that we are talking about radicalism right now? Is it that because the system has not been addressing the very needs of these young people, or is it that the young people within Senegal are very frustrated in terms of their own livelihoods? That's why also they are really rallying behind Usman. And when I was listening to the conversation, also sometimes there is this kind of narrative that is only people without any work or anything that tend to rally. But then I hear people like, we have closed our tailoring shop, we have closed our shop, and we are here to support because we see hope in him. And I think this is also the perspective across the continent, where when you look at Uganda, when you look at in many other places with the Bobby Wine,
very much similar,
very kind of similar. Even in South Africa, when you're talking about, because now within the African continent, young people are talking about their economic livelihoods, because this is what really counts for them. And I think the question, and we have seen it before with the violent protests that happened previously, I think it was last year or so, and it seems like that kind of trend is happening. So there's that need for dialogue, I agree, but of course there's a need to listen to the younger people, and in terms of how they're also wanting to change their conditions of living. And I think this is also part of the narrative, when we talk about Usman Sonko, and should be connected to the issues of Bobby Wine and all the young politicians we are seeing now.
And what about the implications, possible implications for Gambia?
I talked about that. Now we are, like Uncle D.A. said, we are condemned to coexist with Senegal. So anything that happens in Senegal is likely to affect, Gambia. And then I think, that's one of the issues. But at the political level also, at some point you see that most of the Gambian intelligentsia are likely maybe to follow Sonko in terms of his, appearance, and also this feeling of wanting more sovereignty for Gambia in terms of the relationship that has been seen to exist between Macky and Barrow. But outside that, I also think, as a country, we also need to start looking at those issues. What is happening in Senegal should definitely be of interest to our politicians, and to see how best those things could be addressed. For instance, if there are crises, how do we address that? But for us, we prefer to see peace in Senegal, and at the end of the peace in Senegal, peace in Gambia, peace across the sub-region, because that's the only way to achieve the development and the desire that young people want to have.
Dear, you mentioned that Macky may not have interest to go ahead because you think, for a third mandate, because you think Senegalese people, civic society, politicians, and citizens in general are so sophisticated that they may not allow those things to happen. And that means, of course, we could see violence things like we said yesterday. What makes you believe that Macky may not be interested in going?
Honestly, I still believe that Macky is not going for the third term. As I said, I think he's playing kind of politics here, was to protect the disintegration of his party. Because right now, if he were to announce that he's not going.
But President Muhammad Buhari did it.
That's maybe
one of his elections.
Okay, that's maybe it's a different.
My last time.
That's a different scenario altogether. That's a different scenario. But Senegalese society is so a sophisticated society that his party is it's a group of so many parties and interest groups brought together, and he is kind of seen as the unifier there. And if we were to announce that he's not going in for a third term right now, there is going to be so much infighting within
his party. Is that in
the
the law now? It's left to his description.
No, I mean, according to the law, they had a referendum after his at the end of his first term.
Yeah.
So that referendum actually gives him that is 2 terms, allows him 2 terms.
Yeah.
So he can argue on that, that he can go for another term, because this is his first term as far as the new constitution is concerned.
Yeah.
So he has the right to go for another term for that.
So the 7th year he spent, the first 7 years it doesn't count.
Well, I mean, on the new constitution, it doesn't count at all, because the constitution, I mean, it's a brand new constitution. It says the president has the right for 2 terms, 2 5-year terms. So you see, and he's on his first 5-year term as that particular. But the thing is, the Senegalese society will definitely not allow him to go for a third term, because I mean, and I know, I'm almost certain that Macky is definitely aware of that, and he is quite well knows that if he decides to push his way and go for I mean, even though the constitution may allow him to do so, but it's going to I mean, give him a lot of problems, and bring the problem in Senegalese society. So I'm convinced that he's definitely not going for a third term.
Are you sure?
Well, I mean, politicians and what they say, I mean, I'm never, so I'm never sure. But I mean, I think based on the history and the fact that Uncle D has mentioned the sophisticated nature of the Senegalese, because politics in Senegal has been there for a very long time, and even if the constitution say what people are expecting is that, I mean, that nobody can serve beyond 2 terms, and so for me, at that, I am hopeful that the Senegalese would defend their own democracy. They will be able to ensure that the issue of time limit, as we've seen with Ivory Coast or even Guinea, does not come into their own politics. But whether he will go or not, in his own words, he said he's not going to go. But I mean,
we're going now to look at some of the happenings that happen. That kind of will help us understand the argument as to whether actually Macky would be interested in going for a third term or not. These are statements that people in his party, and at some point he himself said during the crisis of the Wade regime. So let's have a listen and see.
kenn dootul mën a changer constitution bi li tubaab bi naan tripatouillage de la constitution. tey nga wàññi suba nga yokk loolu bu nu xasee ba wote lii dootul mën a nekk 5 ans lay doon benn yoon la ko boromam di mën a amaat mu dal di jeex. président Macky Sall bu defee mandat wu bii nga xam ne 7 ans la te conseil constitutionnel ne ko moo ko imposé.
mais ci loolu ñu bëri dañoo tiit ne bu wutee mandat bii ñu jox ko beneen mandat 5 ans est-ce que du jéem a laaj 3e mandat foofu il faut ngeen indi ci ay leeral mu leer ci bopp sénégalais yi.
non dafa leer naññ président wax na ko waxati ko te ni ñu ko bindee sax ci constitution bi leeral na ko mandat bii nga xam ne ci la ne muy mandat wu 7 ans te mu bëggoon koo wàññi moom ci boppam conseil constitutionnel ne ko loolu mënta nekk bu xasee ba jeex muy 2019 ba ca topp 5 ans lay doon bu ko yàlla falaatee incha allah te am nañ ci yaakaar ca lay yem donc président Macky Sall mënut a weesu 2024 ci boppu Sénégal kooku moom constitution bi leer na ci naañ.
loolu kon ça veut dire que ñaari mandat dong lay def.
mandat bii mooy bii tàmbali bii mooy benn ba ca topp mooy ñaar mu dal di jeex.
10 ans
maanaam nit mënatul toogati fii Sénégal lu ëpp 10 ans.
waaw
léegi foofu nag la coow li nekk. mandat Macky Sall bu 7 ans bii. bokk na seen décompte am déet.
mandat wu président Macky Sall bu 7 ans bi.
bu 7 ans
bokk na ci décompte bi.
kon ça veut dire que Macky Sall amul beneen droit. lu dul beneen mandat
amul beneen droit bu dul respecter li nga xam ne moom la constitution bi wax. constitution bi dafa ne nul ne peut exercer plus de 2 mandats consécutifs.
léegi daal jàpp nañ ne mandat bi c'est le premier mandat de Macky Sall il n'a droit qu'un autre mandat mu jeex.
loolu moom mooy nul xam nga nul mooy kenn amul sañ-sañu def ñaari mandat yu tegale lu ëpp ñaari mandat yu tegale xam nga durée ak mandat du benn.
objectif réduire mandat bi moo naan mooy que benn président de la république bu ñu falati du fi defati plus de 10 ans lu ëpp fukki at.
est-ce que mandat Macky Sall bii. 17 ans en cours dafa bokk ci décompte bi wala déet.
mais Pape Alé loolu foofu laa bëggoon ñëw parce que. réforme bi dafa def benn article alinéa 27 bu constitution ne nul ne peut faire plus de 2 mandats consécutifs bu fekkee ne tubaab rek a jàng. mooy bépp président ci commencé ci Macky Sall bu fi falooti mënul def ñaari mandat yu tegloo loolu mooy nul président ne peut faire 2 mandats consécutifs.
ku fi toogati ñaar mandat bay ñëw juróomi at dong la mën a nekk bii mu def nekk juróom-ñaar bu njëkk bi ndax mënu koo wàññi ca la bokk ci ñaari mandat yi ñu wax ko mu leer amul ñett amul ñeent amul ñaar ak genn wàll amul may ma ñetti at ma terminer samay chantier wala loolu amul loolu moom amu fi amatul dem ba ca biir may ma at ma terminer jumaa ji ma doon def fii loolu amul ku def fukki at dem loolu daal la fi andi.
li fi xew le 23 juin 2011 misaal la candidature pour un 3e mandat tax fukki doomu réew mi ak lu teg ñàkk fi seen bakkan signal la boo xam ni bu ñu si jógulee bu ëllëgee daañu am lu ñu metti suñu réew.
ki ko fi defoon sénégalais yi war nañ ko ne loolu ñun dañ ci d'accord muy benn sénégalais yi war nañ ko ñun mandat dañuy bëgg ku fi yem def lu yem dem ba bàyyi keneen loolu moom ci conscience sénégalais yi la.
kon nag ñu ñekk mandat bi nga xam ni mandat njiitu réew la war a doon. loolu ku ne doo ko wootee dafa am leneen lu nekk sa xol wala boog leneen lu nekk sa bopp lu dul njëriñu Sénégal.
te moom président bi muy ñëw ci nguur gi xamoon na ne ñaari mandat la war a am droit bi ñu tëggaatee mbind mi rek lañu tëggaat changé wuñu ko bi ñu ko tëggaatee mbind mi benn la dafa gën a dëgër sax nul ne peut exercer plus de 2 mandats consécutifs. parce que constitution 2001 bi dafa ne renouvellement benn yoon nga koy def 2001. dafa ne renouvellement benn yoon nga koy def mooy article 27. article 27 boobu moo ñëwaat ne kenn ndax dafa mënta am lu ëpp ñaari mandat xam nga kon amul changement nii ci ton bi nii ci contenu bi nii ci portée ni ñu bindee article bi même article la ci li muy wax mooy renouvellement bi benn la war a ne. kii ne la kenn mënta weesu ñaar xam nga ki la ne benn lañ ko war a renouveler ak kenn mënta weesu ñaar mooy li ñu wax benn la donc amul lu bees.
dimanche bu neexee yàlla wiiw ji dana gañe wiiw dana jëm sa kaw non jëm si suuf kon nag nañu ne wii jërë ngeen jëf. démb te pas compris ministre de l'intérieur taxaw naan dañu génne soldats si génne arme bi da nga maam génne police ak gendarmerie si ay ñoo xam ne ay civil lañu ne dañuy dem toog ñaxtu kooku dafa nekk lu jégg dayo donc lu ëpp la armée balaa ñu ko génne day fekk situation am dara xewul loolu dañuy dem toog place de l'Indépendance nga ne na nga génne armée bi boo ko génne foo ko jëmale si peuple bi te ku ne xam na ne soldat fetal la yorul gërëm.
Wow, so that gives us, well, my voice is echoing there, sorry about that. Well, that gives us, a taste of how the situation was before now. We've seen members of the government of President Sall, when they were asked by Pape Niang, we must say these videos were worked on by Pape Niang, and some of them came from the archives of TFM. So our gratitude to them. But these people are trying to, from what you have said, you know the personalities in there, they all seem to give indication that the issue of third term cannot be, is out of the question.
Yeah.
Even though I am yet to be clear whether they mean after this for 7 years, or it is that no president in Senegal should do more than 2 terms.
No, if you look at it closely, actually this interview was conducted during his first term. That was 7 years.
Yes, yes.
Before he reduces it
Yes.
for 5 years.
And what was it? So what did it tell you?
What they are saying is that you have 2 ex-prime ministers. That's Mimi Toure and John.
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 Yes.
So you see, and they have all made it quite clear that Macky Sall cannot do more than 2 terms. That is the first term of 7 years, and the next term of 5 years.
Yes.
So he cannot go beyond that. They have emphasized that. So and that's the situation. So honestly, I don't think. Probably they can. Others can argue maybe constitutionalists or the lawyers may argue that we are operating on a brand new constitution. That constitution says two terms, and it is not quite clear whether the first term is part and
similar to our
exactly that's the situation.
So,
but honestly, I am still convinced that Macky is not going for the third term. No, even if somebody were to argue that the new constitution gives him the power to go beyond,
you don't think he's
but
not the type.
as far as I'm concerned,
you heard him also.
Of course, he was emphasizing that. He was
himself.
emphasizing.
No, that was up like Watt's time, I think. He was criticizing Watt's
exactly
for bringing out,
and that would not be allowed to happen in this country
bringing
again.
out troops to shoot up to defenseless civilians.
So I'm convinced that he's not going for a third term.
So he made all the fine languages there as a true Democrat. You think anything is changing?
I mean, this is also the frustration that a lot of young people, or many do have in Africa, where politicians will come say all the sweet things, but the minute they start enjoying, they even in the words of Ablaye Wade is wahed. I mean, like so now he hasn't said anything, but already people are speculating and all those different stuff.
Action speaks louder than voice.
I mean, even if it doesn't, it kind of create this.
So the issue about this thing, this twaddle about having to wait until the right time to announce a position, instead of helping the situation, is only finding confusion and suspicion.
I think he's enjoying the suspense that he has put everybody in, including members of his own party. But I think the objective is not to cause chaos within his party. That's why he's
preserving stability in your party and preserving for the entire whole country. Which one should be priority? Because if your interest is to stability in my party, but then people already are confusing the situation and they are causing violence. But why don't I come and say, look?
Actually, the violence is not specifically aimed at that. But even if you were to announce that he's not going for a third term right now, I mean, people like Sonko would still have causes to go out and
about this parliamentary election.
That's it.
Many people believe
they are just too radical. I mean, it's not this three-term issue. I can assure you that. That is okay. That is one aspect of it. It's going to settle maybe
that seems to be the biggest suspicion.
Yeah, I mean, of course, everybody suspects that. But I mean, these are speculations. But I mean, when he comes out and they announce that he's going for this is his final term, I mean, that's not going to stop people like Sonko to create.
You think that will not at least kind of placate the people and say, because the whole essence of this term limit is that people who would have normally gone out shouting the streets, look.
Well,
at least that could help.
It could, but it doesn't necessarily always help. I mean, look at Burkina Faso, for instance. Kabore was serving his final term. He was supposed to go but they didn't stop the military from. I mean, it happened in Mali as well. That guy who was there, he was on his last few months.
But that's the military. The military could have wanted power for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. So I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that when they know that you are going. I mean,
and that's what term limits was supposed to eradicate.
Well, of course, that was it. Yeah,
so that's it.
But anyway,
I mean, people will. I mean, you look at Biden, for example. Biden will say all sort of things to get re-elected this time, but everybody the next time,
he's not going to be.
So everybody will be at least. In fact, people will be.
But for me, I'm interested in under Macky. I mean, who's likely to be the next candidate in case if he's not. I mean, going to run. Under his course.
That's going to be a very interesting scenario, and that's what worries Macky a lot, because there are so many people interested. Aminata Toure is one. I mean, she definitely has the potential.
That's what they call Mimi Toure.
Yeah, Mimi Toure. I mean, she has the potential. Then you have,
is he not in the same group now with Idris Seck? Idrissa Seck.
Yeah, but Idrissa, I don't think Idrissa has I don't think Idrissa, because he was going in and out, of the various parties. So he's no longer of any. I mean,
so you want to say there's no charismatic.
The last presidential election, he actually came second. He took second. Then Sonko came third. But Idrissa, I don't think he's of much of a.
Doesn't have the
I doubt it. I don't think so. I don't think people have that much respect and regard for Idrissa now that he can be able to. No. Yeah, he's not. He's kind of a flip.
John, who did you move from prime minister not long ago?
Yeah, that
Is still
John.
relevant?
I think he's more of a technocrat than
He's a
a
technocrat
politician.
than a
I don't think
politician.
he has the ambition of becoming president. I very much doubt it. But
So you mean Macky doesn't have charismatic people in the Benno Bokar Yakar coalition?
Well, there are, I mean, it's a collection of different parties. You have Aminata Mbeng of the Socialist Party as well, and then, others as well who can come forward eventually. But Macky, I'm sure he's worried about, the implications.
Successful problem.
The implications within his party. He hasn't
And
got
a lot of
successful.
people, a lot of the opposition are angry with him. He might do those. Do you think he has a valid fear that if he should leave power without a friend replacing him, so to speak, a member of his party, he could end up in jail because these people said that's how he eliminated them. Trump up charges and get them in jail to eliminate their political career. So they often say that. The guy will definitely dance to his tunes.
Yeah, it's possible, but Senegalese institutions are much stronger than Gambian institutions.
Okay.
I don't think it would be just you can just witch hunt anybody and take them to jail for it. I think they have very strong institutions which actually work. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Set, yes.
Yeah, no, for me, it's still an interesting conversation, so I just want to follow. But then the issue for me with the whole issue, I'm also seeing more of a socio-economic issue coming in more, and I think this perspective is also very critical that we also need to have it, particularly what is coming from. Perhaps Macky has done most in terms of the infrastructure, but of course the issue of the socio-economic living, and here in Gambia also we are complaining about that, the high cost of living, and I think these are all part of the conversation that is also happening.
I think Macky Sall did very well for Senegalese socio-economic development. Well, I don't know the day-to-day living condition, whether that has improved, but infrastructure-wise, in terms of roads and facilities, sports, particularly, and all that, he seems to have done very well.
Well, we have seen the structures.
Yeah. True. He definitely has done very well on the infrastructure side. You have seen how he has transformed Jamñajo from
just
now it has become a modern city, with all the kind of infrastructure. He's also brought in this TER, that's his fast train, and you can imagine how important public transportation is. That is what we are confronting in this country. Public transportation is so chaotic in this country. The government has not given it so much attention, and it's very, very important. That's TER is doing very well in Senegal. Transporting thousands of people on a daily basis to their work and at very cheap prices. So he has done very well on that aspect of it. But again, you have to look at all aspects as well, like the economic development of the people as well, and all those things. So all those things actually count together, and also the human rights aspect and all this. So you have to put all those things for him to look at his as they call it, his how people actually end up his
judging him.
Yeah, exactly, how they judge him at the end of the day. But he's definitely done very well. For us outsiders here, probably people in Senegal have other things that he has not taken care of, and they also count quite a lot.
President Ousmane Sonko, the opposition leader, said yesterday that if people think that Macky Sall will relinquish his position,
just like
that, they need to think again. They have to fight to get back the country from him, just as we gave to him. Like you said, his rhetorics are always very radical.
Yeah, but I am convinced, Mercy, that he's going to relinquish power at the end of his term. This is his final term, and he has promised to make it clear after the legislative election. So I think they should give him a chance and listen to what he's going to say. Yeah.
So, but let's go back to this legislative election. If the Constitutional Court's instruction stays, that list from the Yehu Askan didn't stand, wouldn't that going to eliminate a lot of potential winners from the side of the opposition?
Not necessarily. I think they have two kind of lists. Each party have their own lists. maybe more than 2 lists. You have the departmental list, and you have the, also the regional list and other things.
Okay.
So I think what they have banned from Benno is I think departmental list for Dakar. It doesn't affect other departments in the country as well. It doesn't. So I think this is just for Dakar area. So I think you have to understand Senegalese politics to know. For them, for us here, you have individuals. Even though we have parties that are contesting, but individuals have to contest. You have constituencies. In Senegal, they don't have constituencies. It's every party would present a list.
Okay.
This is our list of candidates.
Yes.
And then depending on the number of votes you have, then you will have the number of. If you are on top of the list, then you are almost assured that you are going to parliament. So that's how they count it as it goes down. So you see, that's why everybody is fighting to be on top of that list. That is causing problem within the various parties as well. Because if the higher you go in the list, the more chances of you getting into parliament.
No,
they don't have
let's go back here. You said they don't have constituencies.
Constituencies, no.
Yeah, it's a proportionate system.
So what is, for example, this list they talk about, Dakar? Okay. How can we know that which party will? Is it that the party that gets the most votes, and how is that vote cast? Not for individuals, but for parties.
Exactly, for parties.
It's direct for parties.
Yes, it's for parties. Like if,
so for example,
for example, if you have 10,000 votes for this particular area, like Dakar, for instance. That is Yewi. If they have 10,000 votes, probably out of that 10,000, they can get only 2 or 3 representatives. And the more votes they have, the more representatives they have.
So those who are in the list are automatically MPs if they meet.
You meet the threshold of the number of votes you get for that particular area. You automatically. It is not the individuals that count here. It is your position on the list. So that's the situation.
So the parties themselves, the party members fought among themselves.
Exactly.
To be top of the list.
On top of the list.
And then they come.
That's why even within Yewi there is a problem amongst them there, because people like Sheikh Bamba J and and others, they are complaining, and Girassi, they are complaining that they are too far down the list because they said it is Halifa Sallah and Sonko and others who met somewhere and then decided who is to be on the list and how high do you go. So they were complaining. In fact, they even held a press conference to complain that they are not treated fairly. So that's going to cause a problem within Yewi itself. So that's it.
So at the moment, who controls the National Assembly? They call it Assembly.
Well, of course, it's Benno. The coalition, Benno coalition. Actually.
How far is the margin? Very big.
Huh? Oh yeah. I think they definitely control because Yewi was not born yet. At the last legislative elections. So
but from the local government elections, they
did very well. But in the major cities like Dakar, Ziguinchor, and Thiès and other places as well. But in the countryside, again, it is Benno which has taken the majority of the.
So if presidential elections are held now, and Macky is a candidate, you think? He still have a very chance for re-election?
Yes. For the urban centers, the major urban centers is going to be very problematic.
Where does the biggest share of the votes lie? Where does it lie? In the rural areas.
Dakar is a very big, very big. It's a big. But the thing is, it's going to be. But I am convinced that right now, as the situation said, if Macky were to go to elections with any of the parties, he's going to win them. It may not be as large as the last time, probably, but he's definitely.
Last time was 59%, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, they said that was their target. I don't know how much.
Yeah, but then you see also these metropolitan areas. This is where you also have majority of voters.
Yes,
and sometimes they tend to also influence the peripheral, the rural, and. And so winning in Dakar, like with the local government, I think doing well in these big cities also send a very strong message.
Strong signal.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
So is Macky kind of panicked? That is why we are seeing ugly scenes like blocking access to opposition party supporter leaders, etc.
It's possible that he's panicked because we have seen how well the opposition had performed during the local government elections, and probably he doesn't want to see that repeated. And but again, maybe he's also concerned about bringing problem within Senegal. If these people were to just bulldoze their way, the prefect of Dakar and the governor, as well as that of Zigansor have not authorized these matches. But if the government were to sit down and allow these people to go ahead with the matches, then they would take it as if they don't need any permit any longer. They will continue to be demanding. So that's the thing. So the government had to stop its foot on the ground and make sure that it doesn't go ahead.
But that went ahead anyway, without these leaders, of course.
Well, of course, but it wasn't the success that the leaders had anticipated. Definitely no. So that's it. So
probably the leaders had taken part, they wouldn't have been chaotic, perhaps.
Probably it wouldn't have been. But with the very fact that the matches were not authorized, if they were allowed to go ahead, it can have some implications, negative implications. That because they would have seen themselves as it's too powerful now to do whatever they want without the government allowing them to do that. So that's the government had to stamp its feet on the ground and make sure that it didn't go ahead as these people had anticipated. Yeah.
But previously, I think there was another protest where I saw hundreds of
that was it.
Yeah,
that was also disallowed. But eventually, the government had to backtrack and allow it to go ahead. But if they had allowed this one also to go ahead, it would have been honestly, it would have been very chaotic for Senegal at the end of the day.
But now my interest is, why is it that opposition will prefer to go out in the streets instead of fighting their battles in the courts, like we've seen in Gambia here, but in Senegal it seems like they are more interested in going out just to show the number.
They accuse the 7 Supreme Court judges of being under Macky Sall's influence. That's what they said.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair. I think Senegalese, the very fact that even the constitutional, those judges have actually, is it the, I think it's the election commission or whatever, they have, affected one of the lists of the Beno has also been disqualified.
Yes,
it means that they are trying as much as possible to make it to be fair. That's what I think. That's what it seems to indicate, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe the disqualification of the Beno one is not as serious. Or but maybe the judges do that just to placate to make everybody happy.
But then the other question is, was their list disqualified just like in Dakar? Because if you're talking about Dakar with the population, now you remove that. You're cutting a lot of
especially where they are based.
Yeah, you're cutting a lot of, because oppositions also tend to benefit from the urban centers, and here, even if you look at our National Assembly election, the opposition seems to do well in the urban centers.
That's quite true. Yeah, that's quite true. But I think even Yewi themselves accepted that they made a mistake in the list, and that's what the law says. If you don't do it accordingly, the law will take its course. So that's it. So they can.
Aren't they allowed to bring another list?
Well, I think there was a time, limit, and if you don't do it within that limit, then you finish. I think what the government should do is they should sit down and then probably even postpone the elections, or at least to a later date, so that they can revisit these things, just to prevent
because if the opposition
trouble.
did not take part, that would really
it doesn't necessarily mean that the opposition is not going to take part. There are certain lists. Even in Dakar, I think they had 2 lists, the regional list and whatever this. So they can still take part in the elections, but for a particular list. That's not they are not qualified to do that. I don't have the details here, but I know that it doesn't necessarily mean that they are not going to take part at all. They can still take part. But I think if I were President Macky Sall, they would sit down and then look at these things. Probably it will postpone the election until later date so that they can get these things right. Rather than
the person are saying that the election will not be held on July the 31st. Macky Sall said there will be elections. So
that's
looks like
and that's prescription for chaos, and we don't like that in Senegal. Honestly, nobody wants that, and I'm sure even Macky Sall wouldn't like that as well.
So what are their civic society saying, or maybe Council of Elders or someone?
Yeah, fortunately, Senegal has a very strong civil society. Very, very strong, and they have a lot of influence as well. But they happy with Yewi as well. I don't know whether you had Usman Sonko, criticizing them, calling them
Yes.
politicians and all those other
Yeah.
So they are not happy with that situation, even though the tendency is that civil society used to be, kind of
more inclined to the opposition.
Exactly, with the opposition. But since Sonko made those comments, I think the civil society seems to be distancing themselves from Yewi in particular. But they have a lot of influence. Civil society has a lot of influence, and I'm sure they are working behind the scenes to see, what the civil society and the brotherhood, the Islamic brotherhood, they have a lot of influence, and I have no doubt that they are working behind the scenes to see that trouble doesn't erupt at the end of the day. Yeah.
Good. Demba Ali Jao, he is our expert for Senegalese matters. He worked there for 10 years as editor of APA and followed their politics very well. Setmati from the University of the Gambia, political science. And we thank our colleague in Dakar, Pape Ali Niang, for those archival videos and his perspective on the current situation in Dakar. You know what? We in the Gambia want to see a peaceful Senegal. We still want to count on Senegal for our own,
football games.
No, our own, not only football, but in some extent our own protection, because the thing is, you can't hit Gambia without going through
Senegal. Yes.
So if Senegal can cover us, before the missiles come to us, the Senegalese would have intercepted them.
And they're also our backup.
They are our backup also. So that's why it's all the more interesting and important for Gambians to preach peace with Senegal. Of course, we want our leaders to be fair and to treat citizens with respect, because that is what ensures peaceful existence. So thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll be back on the brunch next week. Until then, Lamin Cham, wishing you have a great weekend.
solar lampol make it is loka kenda manila for solar enterprise fodo do mungol janyim banko kanje be mutu sumanu baro gunjurungo ikonga fale ko namu badabanda bila bla solar la ni gambia beno gambia la solar enterprise solar ni battery kendo kurao de dasala aboro sinenamo kaji sena odila gambia la solar center na solar enterprise jaliwo solar kende soto jali manfo fenna o solar kende soto enterprise sumanu baro kunjurungo
Islamic microfinance is becoming an increasingly popular mechanism for poverty alleviation, especially for developing countries around the world. This microfinance service adheres to the principles of Islam as a form of social responsibility. Yona Islamic Microfinance is the Islamic microfinance of choice in the Gambia, trustworthy and reliable. At Yona Islamic Microfinance, we provide savings products, current accounts, financing products in conformity with Islam. In addition, Yona Islamic Microfinance also offers local and international remittances, Takaful Fund, management of zakat, management of awqaf, trading and investment, and building of strategic partnerships to bring financial services to the doorstep of the poor with donor projects, madrasas, youth organizations, women groups, and farmer organizations. Make a choice with Yona Islamic Microfinance today. For more information on Yona Islamic Microfinance, call 377-2151 or 9832-151 or visit Yona head office at Tipa Garage, Bakote, or visit any Yona branch located countrywide near you.
Assalamualaikum nan lañ rek waaw togge gi ñor na te waaw hankañ luñ wax cin bu naree neex bu baxee xet gi jolli xet gaa ngi jolli all over town laa wax home again. This is home away from home. lépp loo xam ne rek da ngeen ñëw holidays namoon ko Gambia fii manaan lañ rek bismillah hankañ egsi lañ mu ngi nii weddi gis ayu care ñu ngi nii nag nekkal lañ fii ci diggi Manjai ñu ngi on the Manjai Kotu highway ci boori lan Atlas bi waaw ci right next to the Atlas duma sax introduce bagage yi parce que bagage yi moom am sone waaw Kër Fatou def na ba mu baax dina lañ ko bennaal ngeen gis ko yëpp naan lañ nag anything loo lañ na ma rek boo dee gisu lañ ko fii ni ngeen di def rek mooy ngeen ko taamoo defee rek reng ma ne la aha nga ne ma loo bëgga waaw doo lañ bëgga rek ñu indil lañ ko muy Kirkland water muy Max apple juice muy apple eve lu mu di nekk rek kañ so Charles mën nañoo doxantoo nii tuuti rek moom ma jéem a woon gars yi rek liñ leen fi amal pine solo ngoog coffee mate ngoog waaw citronella candles. But then you like being outdoors, talk to biti, they enjoy the outdoors. Indil nañ leen different versions of citronella candles. ñoo ngi nii neexet nag ba bëgg a dee waaw bu dee sonn ngeen ci muntaay ga laa wax de axankañ ñoo ngi nii domino sugar different kinds of coffee. My favorite in the entire store is this sardine bi danga koo lekk te doo xeeñ sardine. I've had two already and enough bala maa jeexal bitik bi waaw bi mooy sama fave in the whole store. Seasonings lépp loo lañ soxloon ci seasonings indil nañ leen ko muy lemon pepper bi black pepper the Caribbean jerk seasoning soo bëggee def sa jerk seasoning muy jerk chicken muy jerk lamb. This is the one and only seasoning bi nga xam ne rek moom ngeen soxla for that jerk. Different types of oil. This is my new oil now. Avocado oil lu moo def cholesterol ñaari façon la LDL am na HDL am na so avocado oil li moo def mooy dafa yokk cholesterol bu baax bi bu ko defee mu wàññi cholesterol bu bon bi waaw am a health fanatic axankañ lépp lu ma lekk rek dama ko bëgg di bàyyi xel si secondaire yi nag na ngeen fexe nag bi bu lañ ma simi xam naa di ngeen ne fi mu nekk nii nag mu ngi ci li ko gën a neex loolu mooy lan mooy jaay affaire yi lekk bi Neosporin dafa nekk over the counter garab boo xam ne famille bu nekk war nañ ko mën a am ci seen kër xale yi buñ daanoo buruusu tuuti rek gaañu oo nga am koo xam ne dafa diabetic nekk sa kër this is a must have danga ko cee def rek mu daal di rek wér king waaw Neosporin nga lépp loo xam ne rek most of the things I use at home I try to bring for you guys in town waaw tiki ngoog tiki torch bii mun nga koo def rek ci sa balcony mbaa ci lawn bi dafa daaxa yooyu waaw mun tay nga tubaab moo nekk nii then tiki refill la bee nekk nii yii nii citronella oils lañ yii those are different versions of tiki nga xam ne yooyu mun nga koo def rek at the deck the balcony outdoors you wanna chill out ahankañ yooyu noonu la cereals yi nii tamit these are all healthy cereals bi is my favorite organic la moom tamit xam naa di ngeen binta bi ñoo organic waa céréal boo xam ne la dafa am pumpkin seeds ak flax seeds ak granola moo ngi nii daf am nañ different versions we have that one and we have that one as well apple juice xale yaa ngi fi wala juice xale yi laa mën a wax bi apple eve it reminds me of back in the days mooy bi suma xale yi gënee nekk ndaw you know I used to love these juices emuñ rek si Capri Sun emuñ rek si Kool-Aid but dañ leen indil apple eve ba pare nag indil lañ tamit honest for organic kids waaw so noonu la bu dee nag yaa ngi am sa office and nga bugga rek covid affaire baa ngi nii hand sanitizer in a super duper size ahankay moo ngi nii de xam ngeen ne nag lu ma def rek duma ko cof dama ko def ba mot moo ngi nii hand sanitizer baa ngi nii a big size maalo yaa ngi nii si sekunda yi ana ngeen excellent different types of rice are all here so we just setting up ñu ngi just set up ñu ngi yokk more stuff as a matter of fact suñ new shipment baa ngi war a exit tey boobu dina war a am adult diapers you know the dispense ak yeneen so ñu ngi right here on Manjai Highway sori wuñ ak Atlas bi used to be Elton léegi Atlas la ñu ngi jàkkaarloo ak Dr. Slab waaw so I think those are very good landmarks so place bi naxariwta am naxariwta xam at all and most importantly di nga am space pour park so ñëwee all you gotta do is park nice and neat outside loo jënd ñu dukki indil la ko ba ci sa biir moto